Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Tuesday night. Good to see everybody on Facebook Live, on Periscope, on YouTube, on Twitch TV. Welcome in to tonight's show. We're going to spend some time on Josh Heupel, some praise he received from some former players that should be noted today. We're going to talk about why that is so impactful for the University of Tennessee, why it directly affects the University of Tennessee and has a direct correlation to their success. We will cover that ground tonight on the Primetime Show. We will also spend some time on the positions of choice that you're looking for Josh Heupel to develop the most. I've got a gone viral video, no Vols basketball after that debacle, says Off the Frame. Yeah, what a slog against Mississippi, against Ole Miss, rather. Just absolutely terrible to watch. 52-50, the final score. I was thinking about talking about Vols basketball, but certainly not after a game like that. Instead, we'll focus on the thing that everybody cares about when it comes to the Vols. That's football. We will spend some time on the NCAA video game coming back in a tour de force, the gone viral video of the week. Robert White Stewart says, brutal loss. Guys took 6 steps at the end, though, on the inbounds. I mean, it was as ugly a basketball game as I've seen all night. And right now, the Memphis Grizzlies are getting drilled by my Indiana Pacers, and that looks to be a pretty ugly game, too, in the third quarter. Anyway, we've got football to talk about. We're going to do it with you. We want to do it with your friends, though. We need you to share this show on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. If you view with us on Twitch TV, tell a friend that we're live streaming. If you view with us on Periscope, you can retweet us in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. I don't know why I get such a kick out of seeing myself talk on a screen when I'm on another screen on my cell phone, but you can retweet the show, as I have just done, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you view with us on YouTube, you can share the show. You can do the same on Facebook Live. It's share now to public. That's how your friends get involved and talk about the Vols here on a Tuesday night. And now that more of you are here, we can begin the show officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Buck Rising, live from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Promo code A2Z Sports. Proud, as always, to be presented to you by our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Nashville's headquarters for the 2021 Ford Bronco. They got a badass new billboard flying above the dealership in Mount Juliet. You can pay them a visit online at tworiversford.com to find out more about all of the cars that they have to offer you at tworiversford.com. Of course, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top downloaded sportsbook app. You use that code ATOZ Sports directly below me. You can get in on the action before the big game on Sunday. I'll tell you more about that later in the show. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, satisfaction guaranteed on each and every one of your HVAC needs. The best in the business for a reason. The official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and Primetime. Gary Ashton at GaryAshton.com. Also presenting our Tuesday Titans questions on Instagram. Tennessee Heating and Cooling is where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs, just like the Vols that we're going to talk about tonight. You can see the volunteer orange trucks, just like on the graphic below me, rolling around the mid-state, making sure that Tennessee and Kentucky have satisfaction guaranteed on all of their HVAC needs. Don't judge us, Buck. Second night of a back-to-back, says Dom Odell. I understand. Danny Whitson says, already shared, my dude. Much appreciated. We're ready to roll. So tonight, or over the course of today, there was some news made around Josh Heupel because of how much former players of Josh Heupel were praising him. I saw a couple of different headlines coming out of the football world across the internet today that lead to promise for a certain position that the Tennessee Volunteers are going to have to upgrade substantially, whether it be by coaching, whether it be by just purely talent. There is something today that set off this, and it started with Sam Bradford on Twitter, who was a Josh Heupel disciple. I'm sure there's a cute nickname that I can come up with on that, but honestly, it started a chain reaction of former players who have played for Josh Heupel, kind of coming to his support across the University of Tennessee. Drew Lock, another one who Heupel was his offensive coordinator at Missouri, came to bat for him. The University of Tennessee sharing that across their social platforms. And but Buck, are you really hopeful about Heupel? Says David Arnold. I don't know if I'm hopeful. I think I'm just kind of like, okay, let's watch this play out, right? Like, I don't have many expectations for him. It's a tough job, and I'm going to grade him against on the curve of all of the things that the University of Tennessee will face when the NCAA violations finally come down. But first, I want your Two Rivers Ford take. What is the most important position for new Vols head coach Josh Heupel to develop? Let me know on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. We can talk about it at length together. You'll hear from your head coach more momentarily. But first, the Two Rivers Ford take. What position is it most important for Josh Heupel to develop? Heupel should be fine if we give him a chance, says Rhina 3 on Periscope. Puka is rolling with the quarterback, as is Robert White Stewart. Is it L. Austin 676? M. Stone UT says QB. I almost, for whatever reason, I almost read that as M. Stonut, which I know wasn't the case. QB for Ryan. Jeff Sawyer on Facebook agrees. Danny Whitson, David Gibbs says, love the show, Buck. We appreciate your support. Quarterback, no question. In the comments section, many of you weighing in with the quarterback. I want to see, says Dom Odell, what he is going to do with the running game. Took hits on the line and our running backs. There's a lot that Josh Heupel is going to have to rebuild, right? Whether it's attrition because of eligibility expiring, whether it's because players have entered the transfer portal because they caught up in this internal investigation that the University of Tennessee put out. Come on, man. It's obviously QB, right? Says Ronnie Sneed. Sean Drell agrees, as does Robert White Stewart. Rhina comes in and says linebacker, which I don't think is what Josh Heupel was hired to do. In fact, I don't think there's going to be much defensive development on the part of Josh Heupel, other than they're going to have to play against his offense on a regular basis. And it's a fantastic offense. You'll hear from Josh Heupel in a second. I'll tell you what my answer is. Many of you have already guessed it, so I don't want to keep you waiting too long. But first, I'm going to remind you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford, who present the Two Rivers Ford take. You know that you can trust the non-commissioned sales staff at Two Rivers Ford. You know that those are the people that you trust. You know that you can do not only go check out their new vehicles in Mount Juliet, not only can you test drive them, not only can you drive them off the lot, but they are so much about the customer service experience that they even have mobile service. You don't have to go to the dealership to get your vehicle serviced by Two Rivers Ford. They will send a mobile service vehicle to you, to your office, to your home. They will get you taken care of for your basic service needs. You don't have to leave the comfort and the care of your office. If you're back at working in an office, if you're at home, chilling in your home office like me on a regular basis. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people, the best in the business at tworiversford.com or out there at the dealership in Mount Juliet. So Josh Heupel kind of talked about the offense that he's looking to build. He spent a lot of time on a lot of different things that he's coming in with his, with his mindset, with his mentality, with his knowledge base of how he's going to build a football team. This was Josh Heupel on the offense last week at his introductory press conference.
We're going to play with tempo here. We're going to be the aggressor. We're going to play with our skilled players out in space. We're going to give them an opportunity to push the football down the field. At the same time, if you really watch what we do, we're extremely balanced in our approach as far as run and pass. We want to be physical. We want to dominate the line of scrimmage. Those are all things that are going to translate to what we're doing here in Knoxville.
So tempo, physical, they're going to be the aggressor. That's what Josh Heupel is going to bring. And it's going to start with the quarterback. It's going to start with Harrison Bailey. It's going to start with the new recruits that are coming in, that are being that were wildly sought after coming in this year's recruiting class. It is going to start with the development of the quarterbacks. By no stretch of the imagination is there anywhere else that you can start. Harrison Bailey is fired up to play for Josh Heupel. You know he's got to say those things on social media, but the videos that are being released of their off-season practices, of their off-season workouts, you see Harrison Bailey really growing into his own as somebody who is looking to take charge of the football team, of the locker room, and be the undisputed leader. That's good because Josh Heupel is going to have to hone those skills. We forget we were in the game with Georgia. This team has talent. I think Pruitt was that bad, says M. Stone UT. I really do agree. I think that Jeremy Pruitt, Jim Chaney, and a lot of different parts on this staff, this last year's staff that failed, really, really held the football team back. Because the thing that I saw all over the internet was, what do we care about players entering the transfer portal? They were on a 3-7 team last year. And yes, while I understand that argument, that side of things, I also look and I start that I always come back to, and listen, I'm pro player to a fault. You guys know this about me. But the thing that I always harp on is so many more players have failed because of poor coaching than have succeeded, than have developed, than have taken the next step or been put in the best position to succeed. Coaching often is the cause for the reason that these athletes get held back. I hate Pruitt more than my ex-girlfriend by a lot, says Evan C. White. Well, I'm sorry for your relationship. Tyler Butler says, could you retain Pruitt as a defensive coordinator? No, he's out of here, homie. He's done. No way in hell. And that's outside of the NCAA violations. That's just because nobody wants him there anymore with the current administration. They self-investigated the NCAA violations so that they could fire Jeremy Pruitt without cause, or with cause rather, so they could get his buyout off the books and say, yeah, look, this guy was screwing up all over the place. He was being underhanded in his deals. He was being shady in his recruiting practices. We don't got to pay this guy. Send him the hell out of here. This is what the fans want. And it worked to perfection. Now, I'm sure there will be litigation at some point, but right now, Jeremy Pruitt is getting nowhere near the University of Tennessee anytime soon. But the most important position for him being Josh Heupel to develop is without question the quarterback, because there is so much that has been wrong with the University of Tennessee, but it starts with the quarterback play. Offense has to come easier to Tennessee than it has in years past. It comes easy to almost every other college football team across the country, regardless of scheme, regardless of coach, regardless of coordinator, regardless of talent. Offense is very, very easy, unless you're an idiot, to find in college football. He's getting nowhere near any university, says Evan. Tennessee will be on a bowl ban in the next NCAA violation, says Robert White. NCAA game? I'm not. Oh, in the video game. Okay. What if Pruitt was just recruiting the way that Saban always does? Time for the NCAA to investigate Bama, says David Arnold. Maybe. But nobody's good. Nobody's trying to get rid of Nick Saban because Nick Saban's a good coach. David, are you going to sit in here in the comment section and make the argument that Jeremy Pruitt was a good coach and deserved another shot at this thing? Nobody is going to make that argument. And if so, I want to know why. David, if you've got that argument to bring to the table, please come on in here. I would love to hear it. The most important is QB for him because we haven't developed a QB since maybe Kiffin. Dobbs should have been even better if Jones could actually coach. I mean, Butch Jones was a better coach than Jeremy Pruitt was. I mean, you've seen this thing completely and totally fall off the tracks. Pruitt already got another job with the New York Giants, says Jeff. No, he got a job with the Jets. What about T. Martin? Is he staying? No, I don't believe T. Martin is staying last I saw, but I could be mistaken. I know these things have been changing, really day by day. But as of this point, I don't believe T. Martin is staying at the University of Tennessee. Tyson Ellis asked that on Facebook. We'll take more of your comments. We'll talk more about the positions that need to improve. We'll talk about signature wins for the University of Tennessee that we spent some time on last week, but I think that we need to take a closer look at the schedule and decide which ones are actually attainable. Walter says there are so many. Oh, Giants, says Jeff. Okay, so I saw that he was interviewing with the Jets. Perhaps he got a job with the Giants instead. Forgive me, Jeff, if I missed that. Thank you for correcting me. There are so many positions that need development, says Walter Williams. We'll talk about that here in a second on A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Promo code A to Z Sports allows you to double your first deposit right after I remind you about the fine folks at Tennessee Heating and Cooling. I'm going to be out at Tennessee Heating and Cooling this week. I'm going to be doing another pop-up We're going to be doing a lot more of those with Tennessee Heating and Cooling because we love what they do. We love that they provide satisfaction guaranteed to their customers. I love being one of their customers, that they provide satisfaction guaranteed to me. You can get all of these wonderful things courtesy of Chris Hamby and his family at Tennessee Heating and Cooling and Brymac Mechanical at 10hc.com. That's TENNHC.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Have we named a D coordinator yet? Says M. Stone, UT. I will look that up because I have seen a bunch of different headlines coming across the wire. So I will find that out for you here in just a second. That's it does not appear that there has been a defensive coordinator added since they bought out Kevin Steele's contract. Kevin Steele made $900,000 to not do anything, to join the staff and then be immediately jettisoned. At this point, they do not have a defensive coordinator under Josh Heupel. But what positions outside of quarterback do you think they need to focus on the most? Because I agree, offensive line is going to be massive. And the offensive line coach from last year went to South Carolina, got a new job. It's for the benefit, I think, of everybody that they have moved on from that particular coach. That was supposed to be their most talented position group. It fell pretty flatly on its face. Pruitt is with Dooley with the Giants, says L. Austin 676. Outstanding. So Pruitt and Dooley take New York. I would pay to see that. That sounds like a terrible buddy cop movie. I just want to know why we keep struggling to hire coaches that can actually develop players. Tennessee is too good for this, says David Arnold. Well, I think that because David, I mean, this is the thing that I come back to time and time again, right? Like, you guys tell me that Tennessee is too good for this, and I want to believe you. Has Steele been fired, though? No, they bought him out, Dom. They bought out Kevin Steele's contract after being on campus for like a week and a half. A little longer than that, but not much longer than that. The thing with Tennessee that I kind of come back to David's point that Tennessee is too good for this. I just don't think they are right now. I think they're trying to get out of this cycle of being mediocre. I think that Tennessee has all the we talk about this all the time. He has all the promise in the world. The university has all of the recruiting. I'm trying to think of the word. I'm having a brain fart a little bit here. No, Steele hasn't been bought out unless that happened in the last hour. Forgive me. I thought I saw that. We were talking with John Reed last week, and John Reed was telling me that Kevin Steele was bought out. So maybe that's the next defensive coordinator. We will see. I guess he's being interviewed. So forgive me on that point. Thank you guys for correcting me, both Jeff and L.A. Austin. Steele is still on the staff, says David Gibbs. Thank you for correcting that point. The University of Tennessee has all the ability in the world to be able to write this. They just haven't in my lifetime, right? Like, as long as I've been paying attention to college football in the last 12 years, which has really been the trajectory for the University of Tennessee, they haven't been able to find their footing. They haven't been able to get off the schneid in a way that is really, truly evident. Like, I'm 27. The University of Tennessee has had success in my lifetime, but none that I really tangibly remember. So when David goes back and says Tennessee is too good for this, I understand what he's saying, but I just don't feel that. Like, the last decent team was 2016. Robert White Stewart says that was my first year in Tennessee, and that was Butch Jones, I think, when they beat the hell out of Northwestern in the Outback Bowl, if I remember correctly. And that's really been the only time that Tennessee has been relevant, other than Butch Jones. You know, what did he win 8 games, and then they lost to Vanderbilt. They didn't even finish. They didn't even finish in the running for a bowl game at the end of that season because of the way that they fell out. Like, it was a really, really bad falling out in Butch Jones's last year. Danny says, we as Vols fans have to realize that we have been bad for 20 years. That's a very long time. We aren't in the 90s anymore. Robert White Stewart says Dobbs and Kamara. Yeah, that was the last great, talented, well-coached. I'll call that team well-coached. Well-coached University of Tennessee team. I don't know how much longer it takes. I want to believe you guys when you say me that the University of Tennessee is too good for this. I just haven't seen evidence to the contrary is what I'm saying. I'm 44 and I've had hope through all of these terrible coaches, but honestly, I'm starting to lose hope. Lewis Chesney in here trolling says, Anchor down. 20 years is BS. We were competing for the SEC until '07, says Evan C. White. Well, you guys can argue amongst yourselves. You'd have a better remembrance of those times of success for the University of Tennessee than I would. But now let's talk about success for Josh Heupel in year one. The Vols are in a place where I think that they can make some noise despite how difficult their last 6 months has been. I believe that there are games on this upcoming schedule, now that the schedule has been made official for 2021, that Josh Heupel can at least pull one signature win out of. We talked about what was more important, recruiting in year one or a signature win to bring the recruits in. And I decided, or at least my choice was, a signature win was going to be most important because winning cures all ills, right? Do not call that team well coached, as Danny Wynn said. It's a difficult thing for me to say, but they're the last. Maybe they were not well coached because Butch Jones was the head coach, and Butch Jones is largely a failure by any stretch of the imagination. But I would say to you that Butch Jones failed less spectacularly than any Tennessee coach that I have seen in my lifetime, is what I will say. I think he can win 7 games this year, says Jeff Sawyer. It's caught. Juwan Jennings, says Robert White Stewart, calling back to Juwan Jennings' many accolades and highlight plays. 5-7 or 6-6, good first year, says Drew Leverett on Facebook. I want to know from you guys in the comments on Facebook Live and on Periscope, which game on the schedule would you most want Josh Heupel to win in 2021? Let me know which on the Vols schedule. I'll go through the schedule for you here in a second. Which game would you most want the Vols to win, understanding the position that they're in? Alabama's on the schedule. I don't think anybody expects them to beat Alabama in year one. If you do, God bless you, because that's not a life that I would choose for you to live. That sounds very stressful and full of disappointment. While you guys tell me that, before you hear from the coach who I think that they should beat and the program that I would love to see them beat here on A to Z Sports Primetime, I'll tell you about DraftKings, because we are here on the Primetime Show in the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios, and where you can use America's top-rated sportsbook app. The 55th big game is this weekend. A game this big, you guys know this, it deserves a big prize, not just a trophy. To finish off the football season, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, they're giving all players a no-brainer of an offer. To celebrate football's finale on Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook is doubling your money if a touchdown is scored in the big game. Don't forget about the DraftKings Big Game Prediction Challenge, with up to $55 million in total prizes up for grabs and instant prizes for everyone who enters the contest. It's all available to you. All you got to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. You can do it while you listen to the phone. Listen to the show. Use the promo code A2Z Sports. That's ATOZ Sports to get a shot at doubling your money if a touchdown is scored in Sunday's NFL finale. Promo code A to Z Sports. Double your money Sunday night if a touchdown is scored only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older. Tennessee only. See DraftKings.com/prediction-challenge-DFS for details. Restrictions apply. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. The fine folks at DraftKings Sportsbook. Great things that they're doing for the people. They're just trying to give you free money is all over the course of the Super Bowl weekend. Jimmy Cheek plus major boosters dicked up the program way too long. We had zero stability, says David. Where to go? David Gibbs. The 07 team commenter is exactly the demographic fan I'm talking to. Several teams had to lose for us to be there. LMAO. Saban over here hiring fired NFL coaches as assistants, and we're a dumpster fire, says L.A. Austin. David Gibbs wants them to beat Florida. Lewis Chesney would like to see them beat Alabama. Jonathan Long, Florida. Brian Bowman, Florida. Jeff Sawyer, Florida. Cameron Durnia, Florida. Robert White Stewart, Florida. Just win the first one, says M. Stone, UT. Well, let's go through the schedule, right? Because you open at home versus Bowling Green. You have 3 straight home games against, Pittsburgh's not necessarily a pushover. Pittsburgh has a tendency to upset teams, especially in the ACC. Pittsburgh is the bane of Miami's existence. But you open against Bowling Green. You have 3 straight home games: Bowling Green, Pittsburgh, Tennessee Tech. Then you travel to the Swamp in the SEC opener at Missouri, hosting South Carolina, hosting Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin's return, at Alabama, at Kentucky, hosting Georgia, hosting South Alabama, and then you conclude the season in rivalry week, hosting the mighty Vanderbilt Commodores. Which win would you most like to see Josh Heupel get in year one? Florida, says Eric Andrews. Drew Leverett agreed. The standard is beating UGA and UF and winning the East, says Dom Odell. Not lately. Tennessee Tech, says Chill Mode. As a Vol fan living in the middle of Gator country, watching them beat Florida is always completely and utterly amazing. 2016 was way too long ago. Mullen is a punk. Beat Mullen, and I'm okay. Mullen wants to be Spurrier so bad. Has to upset Florida, says Brian Bowman. To be blunt, I don't see them beating Alabama, Florida, Georgia. I will give them a 50-50 against Mizzou, Kentucky, or South Carolina. Tony Swanson wants them to beat Ole Miss. Let's see. Florida and Ole Miss would be a huge success, says Brian Bowman. I mean, the standard, as Dom said, is Florida and Georgia, right? But Georgia, I don't think you're getting close to. The person that I think you have the best chance of upsetting when you go on the road for the first time in 2021 to the Swamp, I think you could take out Dan Mullen.
It was a great day of football, great atmosphere out there. Crowd was certainly a factor in the game. I will certainly say that. I know our governor passed that rule, so certainly, hopefully, the university administration decides to let us pack the Swamp for LSU next week. 100%, because that crowd was a major factor in the game. And so I certainly hope our university administration follows the governor. Our governor has passed a rule that we're allowed to pack the Swamp. We have 90,000 in the Swamp to give us that home field advantage that Texas A&M had today.
It's the single dumbest thing that Dan Mullen has said. I've never hated a college football coach more after that Texas A&M loss in the middle of a global pandemic, demanding that 90,000 fans be able to attend a Florida game because he lost because of home field advantage at Kyle Allen Field. Just absolutely pitiful. There is nobody who plays the underdog role more, that is more unlikable, I would say, than Dan Mullen. It was cute when he was at Mississippi State. Now that he's coaching Florida, where the expectation is national championships or bust, and to win the SEC East just as it is in Tennessee, this man absolutely needs to go down. I would love to see the University of Tennessee humble Dan Mullen. I would love to see Josh Heupel humble Dan Mullen. And I'm not a Vols fan. I am just a objective media personality who talks about the Vols on a talk show from time to time. I have no rooting interest. In fact, I'm still very mad at the University of Tennessee for causing me to shave my head after they beat Indiana in the Gator Bowl it was almost 2 years ago at this point. We're closing in on Valentine's Day. Was it? Yeah, it was just after Valentine's Day during bowl season that Tennessee beat Indiana in the Gator Bowl. And a year ago, next week, or 2 weeks rather, a year ago in 2 weeks, I will have shaved my head. I look like a penis because the University of Tennessee beat my alma mater. And that's okay, as long as they avenge my hair by beating Dan Mullen. After that, beat Florida. Guy's a clown, says Jimmy Riccardi. Such a crybaby, says Evan C. White. David Arnold, I can't stand Mullen, man. Pack the Swamp, says Robert White Stewart. So stupid. Mullen's an idiot from Cameron. What a punk from Jonathan Long. L. Austin comments about A&M, LSU, and especially the bowl game. Buck driving to Knoxville if we beat Florida for the celebration, says Brian Bowman. Listen, I've honestly never been to a University of Tennessee football game. I'd love when things get back to normal. It's very much on my bucket list. Maybe on a bye week for the Titans, because you guys know that I cover every game for the Tennessee Titans. I would love to get away and see a game at Neyland. Will you shave your head if they beat Mullen, says Robert White Stewart. I don't know if I could bet my hair twice. My girlfriend almost broke up with me because that happened the day, I think it happened on Valentine's Day, like on February the 14th, as we were getting ready to leave for a trip for Valentine's Day weekend. And I come out of the Zone Studios from our friends with formerly of the Midday 180, because I lost a bet to David Reed, Vols Hoosiers, straight up in that bowl game. I don't know if I'm willing to bet my hair twice because it was a very, very bad look for me. I did not look. I really did look like male genitalia without any hair. It was not a pleasant. It was not a pleasant experience for anybody, much less my girlfriend. Anyway, what win on the schedule would you most like to see Josh Heupel get? I think everybody and their brother that cares about the University of Tennessee or is associated with the University of Tennessee in some form or fashion wants to see Dan Mullen go down. Let's put a bow on tonight's show. Let's talk about the gone viral video. The NCAA football game, it's back. It's better than ever. We'll spend some time on it here in just a second. Right after, actually, I'm going to ask you guys the question. Which team would you use to win the national championship in the new NCAA video game? Chime in the comments on Facebook Live, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch. Which team would you use to win the national championship in the new NCAA video game? I'm seeing a lot of LSU, Bama, a lot of that going around. Honestly, Buck, the only SEC team I even remotely see the Vols winning is Vandy, and I feel like that is even going to be a close game. SMH, that's from Chill Mode. Well, Chill Mode, I cannot help your optimism or your pessimism. All I can do is help you talk about video games, and we will do that momentarily. You'll hear from Kirk Herbstreit about it shortly, right after I remind you about our friend Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, the official real estate agent of the Titans, Preds, and the Primetime Show, because I trusted the Ashton team to get me my dream address without the stress in downtown Nashville. It's damn near walking distance from the Titans practice facility. It's less than a mile. It's about a mile and a half to Nissan Stadium. It's perfect for me. I built Austin and Zach built a studio in here for me for my to be able to have the home office to do the podcast, the streaming show. Hell, I even do the radio from my office when I can, because the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage found me the perfect place to be able to do all of the things that I wanted in the perfect geographical location. They will help you find your dream address without the stress. They will help you sell your home for more if you are in the market to do so at GaryAshton.com. Vols, says Evan C. White. Keep the hair. It was difficult to watch your show with no hair, says Brian Bowman. That's a fair point. I appreciate your suffering, Brian. L. Austin would pick Alabama. Ronnie Sneed rolling with the Memphis Tigers. I like that. Hell yeah, I can finally stop playing Madden, says Sean Drell. Murray State Racers, says Robert White Stewart. I had an ex-girlfriend go to Murray State. Tennessee, no doubt, says M. Stone UT. Tennessee for Jonathan Long, mental health guy, wants the LSU Tigers. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, says Tennessee 88 on Periscope. I love the idea of winning a national championship with Lane Kiffin, but if you haven't heard, the NCAA video game is making a return. Kirk Herbstreit was on Jordan Reed's podcast a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I think, and kind of hinted that this would be coming back. Here's that video, courtesy of Jordan Reed.
Is there a situation where we may see the video game return soon?
I've talked with the folks at EA Sports at length over the years. I think going back to the Ed O'Bannon case, and one of the saddest things about all that is all these players that grew up like you when you were 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. You played that game. You loved that game. And when you finally got old enough, man, it's like, man, I can relate. Now I'm in college and this is so cool. Or guys that are at Oklahoma are playing the game and they're on the game. Like that was a thrill for those guys, right? And to have that taken away from whatever it's been now, the last 6 years or so, it's just sad, because at the end of the day, I think people would be shocked by what the players would actually receive. You know, if the name, image, and likeness goes through, I think people would be shocked by how little the players would receive. I mean, they might get a free game. You know, that's about the amount of what that might be worth. Maybe it's a little bit more, but it's not a ton. And the players have lost out all these years of being able to play. Trust me, EA Sports hears the noise. They hear the demand. They're flattered by that. And they're going to do everything that they can within the rules and the guidelines to be able to provide players and, of course, fans an NCAA video game.
So it's back. It's better than ever. The NCAA video game, as Kirk Herbstreit alluded to, is back on track. Boycott EA Sports, though, says Evan C. Why? Why are we boycotting EA Sports? NCAA 16 and 04 will be better than NCAA 21 because EA Sports is garbage. I don't know why that's the case. I wish they would bring back NCAA basketball, says Chandrell. I would love to see that. Whom would you choose to win the national title with in the new NCAA video game? I'm going to have to go with literally any team in the MAC. It could be Akron, could be Toledo, could be the Buffalo Bulls, Ball State Cardinals. Like, I love MACtion, and nothing would make me happier in my own college football bubble to elevate a MAC team to the highest of heights and win a national championship. To get to a Final Four with the Buffalo Bulls would be among my greatest accomplishments. I would have to choose literally any MAC team and then go about drubbing in the heads of Alabama, of Georgia, of Clemson, of Ohio State, of whomever would dare cross the mighty Buffalo Bulls path. MACtion is the way to go. Any of those teams are the ones that I would choose to use in the new NCAA video game here on A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Promo code A2Z Sports is how you double your first wager. Okay, we've done a great show. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you, as always, for your participation. A few notes on the way out the door. You need to subscribe, rate, and review to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. Ramon Foster was great. Ron Slay was great. If you guys are Vols fans, you'll love that podcast. If you guys hate the Mike Vrabel promotions that he made over the weekend, you'll love that podcast. If you love all things good and right in Nashville sports talk, you'll love that podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. Make sure you support the people that support this show. Two Rivers Ford, DraftKings, Tennessee Heating and Cooling, and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Great businesses all providing you great service because they're not tired of doing so. Just like we're not tired at A to Z Sports of cranking out great content for you to consume, whether it be podcast, written material at A to Z Sports Nashville.com. If you like the Titans talk that we're doing, I've been all over 104.5 The Zone. You can subscribe to the podcast there. There's plenty of content being produced by the A to Z Sports Content Factory. We know, or you know, we got you covered because we are not tired yet. We will do this thing again tomorrow night. We'll spend some more time on Titans draft strategies as we ramp up before we do a Super Bowl preview. 8 p.m. Central Time will be when we get together next. As always, fam, peace and love, but you know damn well my show is over, but the evening is not because I'm not tired yet. No!